It's your boy. Then I was about to say something funny. I forgot. I was about to say it's your boy. Eat the box 69420 666. So, but
Not.
anyway, I got my friend EecoHeartGlow here, and right now we want to talk about. I want to talk about something that I posted on Facebook, and then I'm going to add to my new book, which no joke is called "Piss, Shit, and Throw Up," and which will probably be coming out next month. As soon as I get to editing, and I don't know, other stuff. But I posted and I said unhappiness is an underrated adversary. It can trick you into making your life even worse. Now, somebody mocked me for posting that, said that I was about as deep as a puddle. I wasn't trying to be deep, but I don't know. That's just what came. That's just what spoke to me. But anyway, so unhappiness because I grew up in a kind of in a situation environment where happiness wasn't really promoted, and there was some abuse, and there was unhappiness, there was hate, and that led me to very destructive habits. So just like treating other people poorly, substance abuse, self-harm, low self-esteem, all of these things. It became a cycle, and it put me in a position where I didn't even want happiness, or I didn't want to have joy, or didn't want to break free of it, because it would force me to do things that I was unaccustomed to. It kind of had me in the mindset of, well, first of all, I just couldn't believe that there was anything great out there for me. I thought that the world was out to get me. I thought that, I don't know, that I was a target and I was a victim, and I had a victim mentality, and that was so much easier to do. It's so much easier to go on the Facebook and go on the Twitters and all that, and you just say, "Oh, woe is me. Yeah, life wants to fuck me," and all this. Because the fact of the matter is, if you really do want to make your life better, it's going to require some work. It's going to require some uncomfortable changes. Oh, get a thumbs up. Uh,
That's me. I'm just, yeah, need
yeah.
some clap hands too.
Yeah. So yeah, so make some uncomfortable changes, and also you have to face, like, when people are so, and this is very tough part. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Um, so when people are so accustomed to seeing you all mopey and you're like, yeah, yeah, I'm doing good, and all that, you almost feel like you have to keep up with that, because if they see you as like upbeat one moment, they're like, "Hey, well, yeah, you're different today," huh? And it's almost like you don't even want to take that on, which it sounds crazy, but I remember being in that mindset a lot. And I was like, didn't really want people to see me upbeat when they were so accustomed to seeing me down. It was
But
a,
I can totally relate to that. Like, I feel like, uh, yeah, the angle you're coming at right now is completely 100% relatable. Like, and I think that's pretty much with everyone. Just, we have it in different scenarios, but we kind of feel it in almost the same way. Um, yeah. So, like, when I was, an example, I guess, for me is when I was younger, like, I played sports. But then I was also kind of girly. I'm the only girl in my, immediate family, aside from my cousin who's in Texas. I still, even to this day, rarely talk to her. But um, there was definitely like a persona that I tried to keep up with, because I didn't want people to be uncomfortable with how I felt I was changing inside. So I definitely relate to what you're saying. And it came to the point, like you mentioned, you didn't want to disrupt how people thought of you, or you didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. And then also you were uh, not used to going with the flow of, how your body and your soul was changing also. How you just weren't accustomed to that rhythm of being in change, kind of. Um, yeah, I feel like for me, in my position, being in the LGBT community, I definitely suppressed, just kind of generally speaking, I definitely suppressed a part of myself that delayed internal acceptance and growth. Um, you know, which with a lot of LGBT people, we don't necessarily, I feel like we aren't as in touch with our feelings and emotions, and we aren't so much in the habit of touching that part of ourselves. So I think oh darn, I don't want to get off topic. Crap.
No, say what you got to say.
I'm losing track. Uh, yeah, and I feel like the more you know about yourself, the more, I guess, general happiness you'll have. But if people are suppressing themselves, then and not going with the flow of how we're changing and how the energy inside of us is just transforming, then there's no way we can attain that.
Uh-huh. And so off camera, you kind of mentioned to me, and I don't want to get you wrong, but didn't you say something like happiness is kind of unattainable?
Yeah, so like in my I mentioned Rob Dial because he's the one who kind of sparked this. I mean, he said it verbatim that happiness is unattainable because it's more of a, in a sense, kind of like a manic state of mind, more of like a spike. It's nothing uh, that can stay in that state for, long periods. So um, the more appropriate word for what people are trying to get to a state of is joy and just content with their life. And, you know, I feel like with happiness and, films and movies, happiness makes it seem like it's forever, where, like it's, and then when that's not sustained, like we'll reach that point and then we realize it's not the same or something is changing. We kind of get scared and we just aren't, we kind of don't really know where to go from that. Like it's supposed to be written down and in some kind of format that we just follow. But I think what's has to be remembered is that the movies is made for entertainment purposes. It's not real life.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more we kind of are honest and more upfront with how we are personally feeling and how our bodies are changing, then we can kind of see that more clearly. Um, but yeah, joy, I feel like is the more appropriate term because that way we will um, most appreciate what life has to give us and what we, yeah, that's it. I
No,
don't
I
know.
got you. I got you. I was actually in a conversation with Key Wellness, who I will be collaborating with soon, and I was telling her, like I told myself and probably told other people, is that, and I'm glad you kind of put this into perspective because I was thinking, like, man, I'm never happy. Like, I'm never happy. I feel like I would never be happy. Some will kind of tie that to being insatiable, but even when I don't feel insatiable, even when I do, when I just feel content, it just doesn't feel like happiness. And I guess that's because of what's been sold to us. It's been kind of sold to us like you can be happy and that's it. But in their defense, what I think it is just an overall thing. But what I think it really comes down to is how content you are with your life. Because when you find a level of contentment, then maybe you don't sweat the smaller things. So then it's just one of those conversations where what outweighs the other. Because one thing that I realized actually is that, I mean, unhappiness is actually very much sustainable and attainable. Like you can spend your whole day unhappy. You can't really. you know, anticipate spending your whole day happy because you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. Now, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you take on unhappiness. Let's say you're an unhappy person just for a day. I mean, it probably lasts longer, but let's just say for this day. So when somebody gets in front of you, you know, when you're driving or takes your parking spot, then it just keeps fueling. It's like, oh, go figure. This shit always happens and things like that's very much more sustainable than just being, you know, all jolly and shit like that. And then you get news that somebody dies or you know somebody tries to pick a fight with you or somebody try to blame you for you know like so I definitely understand like how happiness can kind of be a spike, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I had a great time at the amusement park, but now I feel kind of frustrated right now because I didn't eat or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Oh, that, and I'm gonna say this again. Rob Dahl is the guy that I will probably stand behind for for eternity.
how
But
you spell his name?
Rob Dial Jr., ROB, last name just like the Dial soap,
Dial.
DIAL.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
And so let me get my thoughts together because there's a lot of thoughts running through my head right now. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. It was some, you said that, there we go. Our brains have a tendency, you know, just how we have survived for eons and eons. Like we are used to sticking with the negatives because it's in negatives, aka fight or flight responses. It's in like the same area category that are of our brain, um, that and negativity, and we hold on to the negatives because it helps us to avoid bigger negatives or things that could, uh, you know, trigger that flight or fight response again. So out of habit and out of evolution, our brain is kind of just used to dwelling on negatives, and it's just kind of like a default for us. So in this day and age in 2020, we have this technology. We're more aware, we're more insightful, and pretty much it's kind of, we're just kind of rerouting our brains. And because we don't have those natural predators, we don't need that part of our brain to tap into like that. So we kind of see ourselves as depressed, but it's kind of like we just don't know how to reroute our brain. Like our brain is kind of, we have to be more aware that where are the words? We have to be more aware of that. I don't know. And that in itself just takes practice. The more we kind of point that out, the better we will be with grappling with life, which really isn't the scenarios that we're coming up with that we are unhappy about, that we don't like. Um, you know, they really aren't a big deal when it comes to what we had to deal with in the past, you know, with predators and things like that. Um, and yeah, like when it's all said and done, it's kind of like, it kind of always goes back to how you're feeling about yourself and how you internally are just grappling with what life throws at you. And I love this phrase. Like it's like it kind of always, for me, goes back to mastering the mind. Like we are our biggest challenges. It's not anything that happens out in the world. It's how we kind of react to that. And just being conscientious of it, which takes practice. So
Yeah, okay, cool. So which brings me to something that I speak on not enough is that it pays to always check in with yourself. It always pays to
I agree.
reflect, even ruminate, meditate, Journal is extremely important. This way you can rationalize a lot of the things that you are going through, especially if like you are extremely emotional or you spend a lot of time around people and you got everybody else's voices in your mind. The thing about me is that my voice is always the strongest, and maybe it takes training, but I only allow for kind of more constructive voices to take residence in my mind. And a tool like YouTube is actually really great for that because it has an algorithm that will feed what you typically go looking for.
Mhm.
So the algorithm definitely helps you shape your mind in such a sense because now when you go looking for philosophy all the time or self-help or how to get this money, whatever it is, then you start seeing more and more of it, then that really shapes your subconscious mind. So it's always good to focus on the wellness, always go looking for the wellness, and then it kind of circulates. It always um, find its way back to you. So, and I don't know if I'm necessarily wrapping this up, but to go with the initial thought of unhappiness being an underrated adversary, you got to starve your adversaries, and the way that you do this is by taking away the destructive behaviors. So for myself, I got myself into a lot of trouble through substance abuse, and so I had decided that I was going to be sober for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, I scared the hell out of myself with my recent bout with substance abuse. It put me in a great deal of depersonalization. It's horrible. It's very frightening. It really scared me. It scared me sober. It scared me into being massively productive. It scared me into bettering myself, to exercising, again, more meditating, more right. All these things, checking in, because what I had found when I was bullshitting, thinking that I could keep getting away with the things I was getting away with, is that it put me in a position where no matter how many people I had around me, the fight was in here, and could nobody on the outside get inside of here. This one was on me. This was one on one. Now the benefit of it is that it had me a lot less afraid of the things going on around me. I'm a lot less afraid or intimidated by people and things like that because I know what my missions are. I'm very realistic, and I've cut out a lot of desires, and I've cut out expectations completely. As far as
That's really
the,
good.
the world around me, the expectations lie solely on me and not even the outcome, because I can put together a lot of things and it may turn out to be for nothing, but I know what I want to put out into the world. That's where my focus is going to be. I'm always monitoring the progressions that I make, and that's got to be enough until things may get better, they may get worse, but I'm always going to be focused on what can make my life better and do the things that will make my life better. And again, eliminate the things that will keep you in that loop of just kind of unhappiness. So I mean, I don't listen to much unhappy music, no substance abuse, so I can have more control over my mental health. No hanging around negative people. I mean, no judgment towards others. All of these things free you up
Create
of
space.
unhappiness. Exactly, exactly. And the way that I go about attacking one thing, and I'll just say it many times, if you know where your enemy is, you send everything towards it. So if you identify your enemy as unhappiness, then you send everything at it that will, eradicate the problem, that will delete them. So I mean, so what you got to say? We're gonna wrap this one up and maybe focus on one more video for the day.
Uh, I'm not really sure where to go off from that because I feel like, yeah, when it's all said and done, randomly, might seem random, but I go to the topic of like education. And um, yeah, when it's all said and done, it's about like having the self discipline to be self disciplined. It's that.
Nah, I know what you mean, because it's just one of those things where it's like, self discipline in itself is a practice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you until self discipline becomes a natural thing for you, you have to discipline yourself from being disciplined. Which I mean, it sounds extra, but really, I mean, that's the case. It's like if you're not a very disciplined person, then you have to kind of go through the motions, and that's a discipline in itself. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would, I mean, meditation is just, it's the same thing when it's all said and done to like, uh, I don't know, mainstream education, if is that a thing to say? But yeah, I feel like, because basically, obviously, that when people go to school, they usually don't go into the career field that they intended to go into the career field. But they're able to compartmentalize different things that come their way. And I feel like school played a huge part in that, when it comes to discipline and attacking different areas in their life. So, like, if you didn't go to school, that person tends to be more creative, and they tend to be stressed out when there's things that are kind of like creating boundaries for them. Um, and
Mhm.
so that kind of person does tend to struggle when they are met with, uh, you know, fences or boundaries or
Yeah,
borders to
yeah,
wherever they're trying to, get to.
right. And you're talking about college, right?
Yeah, or just any kind of, well, yeah, mainstream education. Yeah.
All right.
So
So yeah, because I've struggled a lot with discipline because public school, I mean, they'll kind of pass you for anything, man. A lot of us, we realized what it took to pass, and we would do the bare minimum. Okay, you get an E in the first quarter, E second quarter, and get two D's because they weigh more in the third and fourth quarter, and then you get passed, and that's what we aim for. So I
that what
mean,
happened?
I mean, I did that a lot, man. I stayed back twice. I caught up both times, but I stayed back twice, and
Yeah.
there have been times where I got all E's and one D, and I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool to be dumb. Like, I mean, I wasn't the only one. It wasn't like I was the oddball. A lot of people thought that it was cool to just be stupid and make fun of the teachers and not be just
Quote unquote
disciplined.
stupid.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And the weird thing is that I would test high. I wouldn't study anything and test high. Like when I was in fourth grade, the teachers were trying to skip me to the sixth grade because I wasn't being challenged. But my mom, she wasn't with it. But
Had less inhibitions than most people
yeah,
because you like fuck the, you know, uh, what is it? What is it? Oh, what am I trying to say?
I mean, my mindset was, just I didn't work well with authority or what was placed upon me.
Hmm.
Anything that was standardized, I didn't. I just never really cared. I always been that person, and I still am. Like even yesterday, I was questioning, like, wow, why do they want you to shave your facial hair to work for them? Outside of being in the food industry, I really do not understand how they think it's professional to shave your facial hair. I mean, you can be professional no matter how you look. I mean, it ain't like your pants got to be under your ass or anything like that. But I just never really understood that. Like, it almost feels like, wow, it's free. It's freedom to grow out your goddamn facial hair, and it shouldn't be because it just grows. It's just a natural thing for you, and that's the thing. I've always been about what's natural, and if we chase too many things that are unnatural. We feel like we got to fit into this unnatural system, and this is the reason why we are unhappy. I mean, check the numbers. It says about I don't know what the numbers are, but about 90% of people are unhappy with what they do for a living. So, I mean, I would imagine the amount of people who are unhappy aren't too far off from that particular filter. So yeah, so I definitely had to learn a type of discipline, and like Jocko Willink said, discipline equals freedom. It's, I mean, if you want to have joy, it's going to come from doing the things that, not even necessarily that you don't want to do, but the things that you claim you want to do, but in practice is extremely hard. Like for example, if you wanted to write a book, it's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, for me, it's pretty straightforward. I have a system, but even still, like sometimes I don't feel like editing, and but I have to do it, or I won't have a book. It's not just gonna magically appear. Or like you want to have a good body and things like that, but it will require you to work out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta work out. You gotta go through that pain. As a result, you'll be mentally stronger, physically stronger. You'll look good. You'll feel good, and that will set you apart from people who do not have that discipline. I mean, just imagine you having a great deal of discipline and to be surrounded by a bunch of people who don't, or have to line up against somebody who does not. You're gonna whoop their ass. I mean, you go looking for the pain, and then what you will find is like, God damn, the competition doesn't even add up to the practice I was putting into this. I mean, that's the beauty of it. So you do all the hard work right now, and you just set yourself apart. It's really that simple, and that's how you find joy in this life, through your own personal struggles and overcoming.
Agreed. Agreed. I feel like you pretty much say everything. I mean, the only thing I say pretty much is like the same thing, but just said differently. I don't know. But
That's
yeah.
all right. It's good to have you backing me up, because sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall.
But okay, so it that's another topic, I guess. But yeah, just seeing who we have around us too makes a difference in how we see our world too. So
Definitely. I mean, it's not really a different topic. The people you surround yourself with definitely does depict, your level of joy and fulfillment. You know what I'm saying? I kind of spoke on that earlier. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people will argue that you're the sum of the five people you hang around, but you definitely don't want to hang around miserable people. You don't want to hang around people who are practicing the things that you're trying to get away from. Like, for example, it's all love, but I can't really hang around people who smoking and drinking. Uh, if that's all they're doing. So I gotta, I don't know, as an introvert, somebody who, just spends a lot
you're
of
an
time
introvert?
alone. Huh?
You're an introvert?
You don't know that? Okay. So that's the thing, because from the moment we started like hanging out and things like that, we instantly clicked. So you know that I can have a mouth on me. I appear to be long winded, but really I'm actually a very quiet person. Very, very quiet person. Very reflective. But yeah, I'm an introvert. I don't like going out. I don't like being around crowds or anything like that. I like hanging out with a couple people or one person, and that works for me. That works the best for me. I get my strength from being alone, and
Mm.
that's just how I operate. A lot of times that I did hang out with, where there are a lot of people, I would drink and smoke to kind of cope with that, because that's just not my thing. I could be extremely awkward um around a bunch of people. Now, the new me, who I am now, I don't know. Who I'm becoming, I'm always going to be an introvert, because that's what I subscribe to. But I don't think if I go into a social setting, I will feel all that pressure to drink. I would just need to know why I'm even there. I don't, I don't have time to waste. So, I mean, like, I'm not a party guy. I've never been to a club before, anything like that.
What?
Um, yeah, no, I've never been to a club or nothing. That's not even a thing for me. Um, there have been times where I almost went. I almost went by my goddamn self. But that's just not me. I mean, I don't mind dressing up, but I don't like dressing up to go out to the club. I don't like, the sales pitches try to get women to come home with me. That's not even my thing. My thing is always working on my quality of life and trying to do meaningful things, so I don't have to be unhappy, have some joy, have some fulfillment. And also, when you're watching your child grow up right in front of you, you say, well, goddamn, I really need to I really need to be on it. I really need to prioritize. I don't want my daughter to have to grow up the way I grew up. And so things really started. It took a lot for me to get to this point. Actually, I mean, I always had it in the back of my mind, but I thought that I could make things happen operating how I used to operate, being, just using substances to operate, thinking I can move around it, but really it was destroying me, and I didn't like the path in which I was going. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I am proud of you. That is so good to hear. It just is. Yeah. Good job.
Thank
Um, yeah, let me see. Next topic. I don't know.
you. Next topic, we're going to end this video. Uh, I'm gonna put some of the info that you want to be put out in the description.
Okay.
Um, so like, subscribe, share, and comment only if you love. Bye now.